This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
Is our time. 508-996-0500 is our phone number. Bachman Turner Overdrive is the band, and taking care of business all the way back to the 1970s. So New England Patriots owner Bob Kraft announcing today that he's pulling his support for Columbia University amid the anti-Semitic violence at the Ivy League school. He released a statement through his organization, Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism. It was through the full academic scholarship Columbia gave me that I was able to attend college and get my start in life. And for that, I have been tremendously grateful. However, the school I love so much, the one that welcomed me and provided me with so much opportunity, is no longer an institution I recognize. I am deeply saddened at the virulent hate that continues to grow on campus and throughout our country. I am no longer confident that Columbia can protect its students and staff, and I am not comfortable supporting the university until corrective action is taken. It is my hope that Columbia and its leadership will stand up to this hate by ending these protests immediately and will work to work to earn back the respect and trust of many of us who have lost faith in the institution. It is my hope that in this difficult time, the Kraft Center at Columbia will serve as a source of security and safety for all Jewish students and faculty on campus who want to gather peacefully, to practice their religion, to be together, and to be welcome. It's a powerful step. I've never heard this other person, Michael Rappaport, I guess he's a liberal comedian, has just apparently called for Hamas to be eradicated. So there's some pushback, and that's good. And we'll see where it all goes. 508-996-0500. Thank you for hanging on. You're next on WBSM.
Hey, Barry, how are you?
Good. How are you?
All right. This fires me up a little bit. I'm not going to get into the details, but something Maura Healey did. And I'm starting to wonder, Maura Healey is awful. That lady is evil.
Evil? Why is she evil?
She just passes all these laws that harm people more than do any benefit for people.
Well, she certainly has an agenda. There's no question about that, and it's one that I disagree with.
Letting men go in the
I don't know if I'd call her evil, but I think she's certainly misguided.
Where do they get these people like these Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boberts? We got a whole bunch of whack jobs in local and DC. How do these people get elected to begin with?
I assume that's a rhetorical question, right?
They got to know somebody
to get elected.
Oh, they gotta know. So yeah, they got like some dead people vote for them and stuff like that.
Well, they put their name out there and people vote. I mean, people aren't the most intelligent when it comes to voting. We know that.
Oh, yeah, they're real intelligent. You get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you get this idiot.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene and how do you put Marjorie Taylor Greene and Maura Healey in the same sentence?
They're idiots.
All right. Well, thank you for your opinion. 508-996-0500. I'm not quite sure where that's going or why. No, you don't know people, get elected because you know people. I mean, you got to get elected. I mean, come on. We've got enough issues. We've got enough problems. Things are confused enough without that kind of stuff. Maura Healey and I, if Maura Healey told me it was, the sky was blue, I'd disagree with that. I'd have to go out and look at it. But, I mean, I don't think Maura Healey is evil. I think she's misguided, and she and I have completely, totally different interests in the world. There's no question like that. But I mean, how do you put Marjorie Taylor Greene and then Maura Healey even in the same sentence? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to me. They come at things from completely opposite points of view. So I'm not quite sure how that works out. Anyway, so we've been talking about the migrant situation, and we certainly know what it's doing to us here in Massachusetts, right? And legislature can't figure out a way to fund this thing, nor do they have the willpower or the desire to change things by either removing or amending the right to shelter. So they're complicit, along with Maura Healey, in really breaking the bank in terms of your tax money and what we're willing to give away to folks to come here illegally. But what about Denver? So we talked last week about Denver and the Mayor Johnston, I believe his name is, right? Mayor Johnston? It's Johnston, right? Yeah, Mike Johnston. And Mayor Johnston has come out and pledged, he's cut the budget. He's cut the police department budget by millions of dollars, and he's cut the fire department budget by millions of dollars, cut spending, reduced salaries and everything, all so that he can come up with more money to take care of illegal immigrants. And his program offers 6 months of free housing, food assistance, workforce training, and more to the roughly 1,000 illegal immigrants that are currently in the city shelter system. And but that's not enough. The illegal immigrants in an advocacy group in Denver are decrying Mayor Johnston's new asylum seekers program as insufficient and offensive. Can you imagine that? Actually, more than 40,000 illegal immigrants have found their way to Denver just since 2022. That was 2 years. So this imbecile mayor is cutting the fire, cutting police, cutting spending across the board in Denver to do something that I disagree with, that I think is wrong and perhaps even illegal, maybe unconstitutional, to provide 6 months of free housing, food assistance, workforce training, and more. And the illegal immigrants and advocacy groups for the immigrants saying that the mayor's efforts are insufficient and offensive. Offended. I'm offended, Mayor Johnston, at what you're doing for me. 508-996-0500. Thanks for hanging on. You next to WBSM.
Hey, Barry, Don up in Stoughton here.
Hey, I was just thinking of you as I was reading that story.
Well, I just got my voice back. Boy, have I been hit by the hay fever allergies.
My goodness. Sorry to hear that.
It was pure hell. But 2 quick points on the climate and Palestine.
Yeah.
Regarding the climate, I've done a lot of research, and scientists have been able to go back 600 million years. 600 million. And in that time period, Barry, only out of 25% or 30% of that time has there been standing ice on planet Earth. All the other previous times, 70%, there was no standing ice at all. There might have been snow, there might have been some hail, but there was no Arctic, there was no Antarctic ice. There was no ice on the mountains. There was no ice for hundreds of millions of years, and we are in just one of those cold spells where we are warming up.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's right there. The information is more than readily available. But, standing ice on planet Earth over 600 million years is a rarity. Rarity.
Wow. That's interesting. I'm going to do some more research into that. That's good to know.
So what these people are saying about the climate, they don't know what they're talking about. Now, Palestine. I've done cartography. I took up mechanical drafting. I have a degree in engineering. I was in Boy Scouts. I was in the military, and I know how to read maps and everything else. Over the past 3,000 years, there has only been a name of a place, or what they call a toponym, Palestine. It's like saying Sahara for the desert, or Wild West for anything past the Mississippi River.
Or South Coast.
Or South Coast. Or New England. Or Dixie. Okay? It's just a name of a place. Now, if we come down to 1918, when the Turks still controlled, quote, Palestine, they did not recognize a Palestinian people. They did not recognize a Palestinian nation or a Palestinian leadership. There weren't any. They were just part of the people that lived in the area of Palestine and Jerusalem. Now, the Jews and Christians have been recognized before for having kings and leaderships and army and everything else, but there has never been a Palestinian army, a Palestinian navy, a Palestinian air force, or a Palestinian president prior just to 1948. So Palestine only exists in the minds of these idiots that say somehow it needs to exist. There never has been a Palestinian nation. At its best, when Alexander the Great conquered the area around Jerusalem and Gaza City, because Gaza refused to surrender, he massacred all the men and sold off all the women and children. And when Gaza City was empty, he brought in Egyptians and Saudi Arabians to fill their place. So there are no Palestinians. It's the name of a place.
No, and there's no Palestine in as much as, they want to hey, hey, ho, ho all day long. They can declare Palestine. I know Mayor Mitchell last week was in Israel, and his press people said that he had discussions with Palestinian officials. No, he didn't, because there is, and I sent them a text, never got a response. There is no such thing as Palestine. So this is nothing more than propaganda that you're putting out there. There is no Palestine. And you're right. You're 100% right. And there never will be a Palestine. And not the way we're going anyway.
No, exactly. And back in the 1990s with Bill Clinton and Yasser Arafat, and I forget the Jewish leader's name, they agreed to a two-state system. But Yasser Arafat turned around and walked away because he said he did not want to sleep with the dead Egyptian leaders.
Yeah.
He would have been killed had he accepted a two-state
Clinton won
solution.
everything that Arafat supposedly demanded, and he was shocked that he was giving it to him.
Yes.
And at that point, Arafat had to stop and say, uh-oh, what do I do? This is what we've been demanding, and they're ready to give it to us? And isn't it funny that he died shortly after that, too, huh?
Yes, and in 2005, when the Jews pulled completely out of Gaza and turned over everything to the, quote, Palestinians, they roared in there and they destroyed all the farms, farming equipment, the hydroculture, everything, and turned it to dust because it had been touched by the Jews. And this is what they look for in their lifestyle. It's just a joke, and it's so sad. Remember, ignorance is a choice. You can remain to be as ignorant as you want all your life because you choose to do so.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I find this particularly odd where we are right now. I mean, to see this level. Yeah, you always get a few muttonheads that are going to go out there and they're going to do, the daily hey, hey, ho, ho for whatever the cause is. This seems to be very well organized.
Yes.
And, it's a little bit bigger than the Black Lives Matter movement. It's a little bit bigger than Antifa. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. But this is something that's global. And this is something, the camel's got his nose, and I don't mean this to be, disrespectful to anybody or anything, but it wasn't intended. But the camel's got his nose further in the tent than I've ever seen before here in the United States.
No, this is horrific, Barry. What these kids are doing, and who's ever funding them, is seeking the destruction of this nation. For when people that you disagree with cannot walk the streets safely, you've now lost the nation, because you will not hear from the opposing side.
Well, I mean, again, you got kids. I don't even know what their parents are paying for them to spend a year at Columbia.
Oh, yes.
So they're out instead of being in class preparing for finals, they're out in the streets calling for the death of their fellow students because of their religion. And calling. Yeah. Remember, we can't put a freaking Easter Bunny picture up in our public schools in this country because we don't want to offend anybody.
Or a Christmas tree, or green or red items. Yes.
But yet we're tolerating these kids hopping up and down and hey, hey, ho, ho all over town and blocking bridges and everything else that are chanting for the deaths of their fellow students because of their religious beliefs. How does that add up?
I have no idea, Barry. Again, it's ignorance. You can be more ignorant tomorrow than you were today, but that doesn't work with intelligence. Mm-hmm. Intelligence is additive. Ignorance is subtractive.
But I'm sitting here looking at live footage on television right now outside of Columbia University because they've now moved off of the campus and are back into the streets in New York. How is this allowed to happen? I mean, if I went out, I would certainly hope that if I led a public rally calling for the death of all Portuguese people here in New Bedford, let's kill the Portuguese, that I would be arrested, right? I mean, I would think, because I'm advocating for harming people, physical harm, I would think that the laws would protect the Portuguese people. How are these people allowed?
An actual threat. That's correct.
Yeah. So how are these people allowed to stand on the public streets in New York and chant things about killing their fellow students and killing Israeli soldiers and so on and so forth because of their religious belief, and nobody does anything? They're allowed to stand there and do it.
Well, remember, too, the state of New York is primarily Democrat-run. And the Democrats are using the Constitution as toilet paper. It's meaningless to them.
I've said this a couple of times today, and I don't know if you were listening earlier, but, it's amazing how for several years now, all we've heard is that the anti-Semitism is on the rise in this country, and it's all the fault of, those very good people and Donald Trump and the MAGA and the skinheads and the white supremacists and everything. And boy, I'll tell you what, you pull that curtain back and expose very easily that what we're looking at right now are the same people that brought us the KKK, the same people that fought against the civil rights movement.
Civil rights,
it's the Democrat Party. These are the Democrats.
Yeah. Now, let me leave you with this one shocker. And President Andrew Jackson threw the Indians off their treaty land in the southeast.
Yeah.
The Cherokees, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Seminoles, etc. And he did that because Indians did not vote, nor were they primarily slaveholders. So President Andrew Jackson, that great Democrat, forced the Indians on a death march to Oklahoma so he could populate the land of the Indians with Democrat slaveholders who would vote for slavery.
Yeah. And they're still with us today.
And they're still with us today. So every Democrat who cries out for reparations, it's only the Democrat Party that owes the reparations. Because if I recall correctly, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican and he was for freedom for the slaves.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So it's the Democrat Party that has to pay reparations to blacks or to American Indians for having stolen their land.
Yeah, and
it's having stolen half the nation there in that fake 1846 war.
There's not even any pretense anymore. I mean, they are right out there and for all the world to see. And you see, the Jim McGoverns and Ayanna Presleys that voted against the aid bill, which I think is a good thing over the weekend. But the reason they did so was because it contained money for Israel to defend itself. Thank you, Don. Great to hear from you. Glad you're feeling better. 508-996-0500 is the number. You are next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, Barry. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, it's funny listening to Don. I love to listen to him.
Yeah.
And then you had a couple of callers ago that just kept railing about who are the idiots that are, how do these elected officials get in, and just kept making disparaging comments versus using his brain, because they were elected in. They didn't. There's no secret door to get to Congress or to the Senate. They were elected.
Yeah, they didn't storm the building and take it like certain people take universities, Ivy League schools.
No,
yeah.
And, Don, and you were talking about anti-Semites. Well, we have a whole squad of them. They were all elected. We elected a bunch of anti-Semites, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Cori Bush, Tlaib, and then that other guy, Bowman, the guy that pulled the fire alarm. Remember him?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. And that's all being taken up by Congress right now, which I think is really, not Congress, by the Supreme Court, because they're looking at what happened on January 6th, and they're saying, is this free speech, or did these people obstruct, the proceedings? And some of the questions they're asking is, well, if people going into the people's house were let in, because they know they were let in, it's on video, as much as they broke in too. Okay, those people should be charged for breaking in. But if Bowman pulls a fire alarm right before a vote and he accomplishes the exact same thing, regardless of the volume of people or the anger or the whatever, shouldn't he be also tried for the same things as the January 6th people? Some of those people, by the way, on January 6th are in jail and are still in jail.
Jail, yeah.
Can you imagine, Barry, if you set up a couple of a card table and a couple of chairs with your wife to watch what was going on, but you happen to be on video sitting there, and they decided to grab you and then decide you must know something, so we're going to take you to Guantanamo with your wife and put you in Guantanamo since January 6th of 2020?
Yeah, I was mentioning a kid the other day that was celebrating his 25th birthday, his fourth birthday in jail without a trial. Mm-hmm. That was arrested in the January 6th thing. Yeah.
Well, I think that the adults are finally in the room when it comes to the Supreme Court, and I hope they keep pushing these cases up there, because it does force the discussion, of what is freedom of speech? What is freedom of speech when you're protesting, like at Columbia, for instance, and what rolls up to the point where somebody can be put into jail the way that they're dealing with the January 6th people, because basically, I think the way that the Supreme Court is asking these questions, and there were a number of different cases that they were asking about, because like they said, for instance, as one of the interrogatories was, well, if the people of January 6th, you could have postponed the vote to the next day, right? And the lawyer basically said, well, that's not the point. But you could have postponed the vote. The vote when it went through. Just the same thing as when Bowman pulled the fire alarm, they postponed the vote to the next day.
Right.
And there was no harm, no foul. The process didn't end. There was no obstruction of democracy. You're making it an obstruction of democracy because you want it to be that, versus, could you have just pulled it all together and say, everybody go home, let's come back tomorrow when everything's cleaned up? And they didn't have an answer for it. It's like, well, of course you could have done that. Instead of sitting there and then saying that this is the end of democracy because of January 6th. So I don't know. I think that we're in a really tough time, because we have people that have come into a free society, whether it's through the, I know kids went to school with my son that came from other countries from the Middle East, and they came in and they're staying. They haven't, their education green card is passed, and they're still here and they're working. But these people are trying to change America to something else. And so they're not looking at how America was formed. They're looking at just changing it. That's why they're not looking at what founding fathers did, or not listening to what,
And that's the big difference, and that's why the country is in so much trouble right now. Is because, look, everybody's welcome here. You got to play by the rules to get here, though. Everybody just can't come in at one time. You got to play by the rules and go through the hoops. It's supposed to be difficult to come here and become a citizen. We don't want it to be easy. We want it to be difficult so that you understand the value of it. You understand the value anyway. If you're one of the millions of people who try to come here every year or apply to come in legally. But, the whole idea of coming here is to become what we are and to become a part of it. Not to come here and say, well, I don't care what happened then. That's old history. I don't need to read it. I don't need to understand it. I have the freedom to do things my own way here. And that's unfortunately what we're seeing so much of with folks that are coming into this country. They don't care about the history or the traditions, and they want to bring their own or their own version of what they think is right. And that's why we're in such jeopardy right now.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think that that there is going to be a pushback because the people that have been here for multi-generations have lived under this society, good, bad, or indifferent. And the protests today are no different than they were during Vietnam. They were very violent during Vietnam, and then everyone was in the street, and a lot of the people in the streets were the sons of the people that lived in America, not people from other countries. So, but we lived through it. We made some adjustments and we lived through it, and I don't see that as any different. I think it's definitely sketchy times right now, but it's probably sketchier because we don't have a leader in the White House that is protecting the back door. That's really more of the issue for me. But anyway.
Thank you, my friend, as always. Appreciate it. 508-996-0500. Let me do the break. We'll come right back via call. Stay. All right, welcome back to the program. It is 2:37 on a Monday afternoon. 508-996-0500 is the number. Back to your calls, and you are next at WBSM. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Barry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I was listening to the Secretary of Transportation this morning. I think it was, this morning, late
Pete
in the morning.
Buttigieg?
No, the morning show had a tape of her talking.
Okay.
The, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts transportation.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
It was kind of comical the way she talks. She comes across as I don't know, to me as some kind of a kook, And she seems she has her own vendetta against the motor vehicles. She wants to get rid of them, I guess, all of them.
Well, that's the whole. That's the whole playbook of these left wingers, all the way from Buttigieg in Washington and Biden, all the way down. That's why you see these bike paths being paid for all over the country, and they're building these new neighborhoods that are going to be near the train stations here in New Bedford that are not going to have enough parking spaces for all of the. For all of the apartments, and the reason for that is to get people to use public transportation.
Yeah, these to me, these are the silly people. I call them silly people. But we're in some.
Well, they're in power.
Some hard times.
They're in power, and they're getting their way. Already in Massachusetts, in some communities, you cannot build a new house with a furnace, a gas furnace. You got to use electric. So they're getting their way with this stuff. We got to fight back against it.
I take my walks every day, as you know.
Yeah.
So Sunday I was walking in the North End, and I go back quite a way. I remember the North End was, to me was pretty nice.
Yeah.
In my day, growing up. Sunday I felt like I was in another country.
Yeah, I agree.
I come home and I tell my wife, I felt like I was in another country.
When you get to around Sawyer Street, Cogswell Street, all that area, Bullard Street, Nye Street over there, Tolman Street.
The population is different too. You feel like you're in one of the countries, like El Salvador.
Yeah, it's a third world country. You're in a third world country on Acushnet Avenue. And I remember that area, too. I remember, the Center Theater. We'd get all dressed up to go there with my grandparents. My grandparents lived on Beetle Street. Back when Beetle Street was nice, right around the corner from the Polish church. And, we'd go to the Center Theater. My grandmother would walk us over and buy us back to school clothes at, what was the name of the clothing store there? Pepin's.
Pepin's. Yeah, Pepin's. Yeah.
Frem's jewelry store was there. And
Tony Arts and all that stuff. You walk
beautiful,
down the
beautiful
street.
neighborhood. Yep.
If you didn't like the movie, you walk down the street to the Capitol, or you go from the center. You go up to the Rialto. But Sunday, that's when they all come out and do their laundry, and they go to the stores and.
Yeah, that was Charlie Sharrock's Lincoln Pharmacy over there where the laundromat is now.
Yeah. This right to shelter, I'm not too familiar with it. I know they're putting them up in hotels and everything. And the state is paying for it and everything like that. Now, the illegals, they get their rent paid too?
Oh, my God, yeah, $300 a night.
Yeah.
And then they each get $64 a day to eat.
Right.
Do you get $64 a day to eat?
You kidding? I'm a fixed income.
Yeah. So they're not giving you $60. What, do they buy you clothes?
No.
They don't pay for your medicines, I'm sure, right? No, and they're not offer you educational training, or you don't get a free lawyer. Man, you were born on the wrong side of the river, my friend.
Man. I mean, it's true.
Here's the problem. You served your country and you worked your whole life and raised a family and paid taxes. So to hell with you. You don't matter.
Yeah, it's a sad case right now all over what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to end. That's the problem, what's going to happen.
I don't know what's going to happen either unless we can figure this out at the polls. And unless we can catch ourselves before we slide over the edge, I think there's going to be armed conflict in this country.
Yeah, what's happening too later. It's coming. That the scale is tipping. The scale is tipping. There's going to, the way I look at it, is going to be less people that's going to be on the dole, and the people that's working, there's going to be less of them. So I don't know how it's going to work out.
Well, and that's what's happening in Massachusetts. And I was just talking to my son, who's 28, the other day, over the weekend, about this. And he and his wife, they work hard. They make good money. They can't afford to live here anymore. In Massachusetts, it's priced them out, and they certainly can't buy a house. And they don't want to buy a house. You know what the average price of a house was in Massachusetts in March? The average price of a single-family home?
About $500,000.
$580,000 was the average price of a home in Massachusetts, single-family home. Now, I was talking to my aunt the other day, and I'm saying $580,000. I remember when my parents bought their first house on Brook Street, a two-family home, and with a big yard, $10,000.
Yes.
And now $580,000. You take out a mortgage for $580,000 over 30 years. You're borrowing over $1 million. Can you imagine that?
Well, I built my house back in the late 60s, and I built it with $30,000, brand new home. Wow. And today it's worth, my son says, worth about $500,000.
Oh, easily. So
things are really, I don't know.
Easily. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to hold you right there. 508-996-0500. I got to get the break in, and we'll come right back on the other side. So stay with us. Your calls are important, and they're next.
Springtime and the promise of the flowers and the feeling that we both share and the love that we call ours. We knew no time for sadness. That's a road we each had crossed. We were living a time meant for us. And even when it would rain, we would laugh it off. I've got pieces of April
2:49 now on a Monday afternoon. Pieces of April, Three Dog Night. That goes way back in our Wayback Machine here. And, yeah, nice day out there. Sun shining. A little bit on the cool side. Mid-50s right now with a little bit of a breeze. So might need a jacket if you're just heading out for the first time. Definitely tonight, I guess, is a frost advisory in effect. Some areas inland got a little bit of frost last night. Nothing at my house. Hopefully nothing at your house either. Want to keep these beautiful flowers on the trees and on the grass and everything. Don't want any birdies freezing up either. A lot of birds out. I saw some, went hiking yesterday out in Tiverton. No, actually, was it Tiverton? I think it was in Little Compton. We were in Little Compton at a trail in Little Compton doing some hiking. More walking than hiking, actually. Hiking it kind of brings about an image that you're climbing mountains or whatever. We were walking on a trail, and but it was good to get out and get some fresh air and get some exercise. And saw some red-winged blackbirds, which are I love those things. That is definitely a sign of spring. And when you hear those red-winged blackbirds, they sound like pterodactyls. But so they're back, and I see the goldfinches. The only thing I haven't seen in my neighborhood yet are the hummingbirds, and I guess they're coming fairly soon. But we got to warm it up just a little bit. Saying it's going to be a mighty warm summer, from what I've been hearing. The National Weather Service is saying it looks as though the summer's going to be pretty warm, but we'll have to see what happens with that. We got more protesters spilling out into the streets of New York City right now, and that, of course, the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas movement that's out there. It's amazing how American kids have nothing better to do, especially this time of year, than to walk out of class and, I suppose, forfeit all the money. I can't imagine, with the pushback that there is right now to all of this, that this is all just going to be wiped away. You look at Bob Kraft today and the comments that he made. Of course, a lot of people say things in the heat of the moment and then they walk away from them later on. Out of a desire to get back to normalcy. But this is something that's really dividing this country. And it's going to be tough to put all of Humpty Dumpty's shell back together after this. Because, everything's hitting at the same time. Everything is hitting at the same time, between the immigrant crisis, Trump being persecuted by the court system and the Department of Justice, the other... the two-tier system of justice that we have in our country. You've got these protesters and all of these different things, inflation, the border crisis. Everything is just coming at the same time. And it's like a perfect storm. But it certainly is a huge mess. And it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. I think it's going to be a very interesting summer. Somebody mentioned... perhaps in the first hour, I think it was the first hour, that we haven't seen anything yet. We got the political conventions coming up this summer. And, yeah. It's going to be fun, huh? Hey, listen, if your roof is leaking, you may be experiencing what are known as common roof repair concerns. Or maybe anxiety, right? Maybe you got anxiety. Hey, look, brown stains on my ceiling. The roof is leaking. In any event, whatever you want to call it, you don't want leaks in your roof. Maybe your roof's in pretty good shape, but you got some leaks going on there, and you're saying, man, do I really have to spend a small fortune to get a new roof? Maybe not. Kudo Construction Company has a solution for you. They call it a roof tune-up. Because the folks at Kudo Construction say that not every roof is a candidate necessarily for a full roof replacement. But every roof could benefit from a little tender loving care. And for only $199, Kudo's expert technicians will conduct maintenance to ensure that your roof lives for a long time. Take advantage of this offer today. Give them a call, 508-509-4414. Tell them Barry sent you. And the offer could end at any time, so you want to act quickly. There are some exclusions. So you want to check their website, kudoconstruction.com. Get all of the details on this wonderful offer. And when you do, please tell the folks at Kudo Construction Company that Barry sent you. Won't you do that? All right, I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back and kind of wrap things up right after this. Stay tuned.
the song we sing feels the way we die. You can make the mountains ring, or make the angels cry. Though the bird is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now.
All right, welcome back to the program. It is pretty much time to wrap it up here. Got about a minute and a half to go until news time, and just checking on the other headlines before I go. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just scanning through some stuff here, and kind of caught my attention. But I do apologize for that. You deserve my full attention all the time, and so here we are. We're back. Sometimes your attention just kind of wanders off. Does yours? Does that happen to you? Mine does. I sometimes just wander away. I'm sitting here. I've got the window in front of me. It's beautiful out, bright blue skies. I can see the pretty flowers in the parking lot across the way, and just kind of like drifting away. Drift away. Don't be gray, right? All right, I got to get out of here. So as far as I know, the only big-time anti-Israel rally that's going on is the one in New York City at Columbia. I know that there was an encampment set up at MIT, whether in Massachusetts, whether that's still happening or not. In Yale, of course, the police had moved on Yale's this morning and moved people out of there. But I think this is just the beginning. I don't think this is anywhere near the end. And it's going to be an interesting summer. A lot of people leading up to the election. A lot of people are tuned in to what's going on. A lot of folks saying they're energized for the election coming up. What that means, I don't know. Is abortion going to eclipse everything, or a lot of these issues going to shift the balance of power? Are people fed up